So if you've been working on your website for a while, you've taken all the courses, you've talked to all the coaches, but for some reason your website just isn't converting, then this is the video for you. My name is Blake-Amaro, and I've been building websites for the last 10 years. And we have created a checklist that will hopefully help you. You can get this from my website, but in today's video, we'll definitely go through everything. So one of the first things that I've noticed with people who aren't getting the traffic that they're supposed to is that they're not structuring their website correctly. Now, I know that might seem so basic. I know that might seem so obvious, but for some people, it really isn't. So one of the biggest things that I always recommend you do is you sit down and you think of, how many pages do you want? I see a lot of time people try to pack as many pages as they can, but really you just need a couple pages. I wouldn't recommend more than 10 pages starting out so that you can make sure that you're structuring your website correctly. You can always go back and you can always add more content if you see fit. But again, starting out, less is more, and this will help you navigate your website so much easier. The second thing is making sure that you're defining your website's purpose. What's the reason that you're building your website? Do you want sales? Are you trying to get clients? Or are you service-based? So you want to make sure that that's clear when someone comes on your website. Okay, so the next thing that we really want to pay attention to is content. Now, when I first started out, I pushed really heavily on content, but I quickly realized that wasn't the route that I wanted to go. I didn't want to post so that I could get clients, but I really wanted to just post so that I can more build authority and trust online. So it doesn't matter what your approach is. If you wanted to post consistently because you know that that's the way that you want to get your clients, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I also know people who are just extremely busy and they don't have the time to do that. And I think I pretty much was in that category where I knew that, okay, I don't have the capacity to keep posting this much, but when I do, I want it to be from a perspective of helping people. And a lot of times, the more you help people, the more that ends up translating. Another thing that you really want to do is just make sure that whatever platform that you're building on, it's structured so that it can support your growth. I've seen it a lot of times where someone will build a website on a specific platform, and as they begin to grow, that's when they start to realize that, hey, this can't really handle my growth. So in turn, they have to spend more money to try to switch it over to another platform, and vice versa. If we had taken the time at the beginning to go through all of the platforms and see how they're structured to make sure that they're structured correctly, then we would have saved time. So that's why I always encourage my clients, a lot of these companies, they're really good at marketing. That's what they're going to do to get your attention. But you also have to be diligent and do that research for yourself. Okay. Now this one too might seem obvious to some, but a lot of people still get this wrong. It has to be set up for mobile. Mobile optimization is so important. And I say this because it could be something as small as maybe a section isn't loading properly on mobile, or maybe your margins are off on mobile, and that automatically turns people off, right? People have, especially in a social media generation, they want instant gratification. So if something just seems off to them, they're out. Okay, so I always recommend that. Just go through your website on mobile. Make sure that everything looks good. Make sure that it speaks to whoever your target audience is so that you're keeping their attention all the way through. And this goes back to, you can do things also like posting a video there, making sure the video looks good on mobile, of course. Now we're going to get a little bit into SEO, and I feel like this isn't talked about enough. I know a lot of times when someone builds a website, everyone is their target audience, but it really shouldn't be like that. I always recommend that you start off on a local level. So on your website, let's say you're service-based, and let's say you do plumbing. You want to say where you do plumbing, because chances are if you start making clients locally, it'll be easier for you to get attention for people elsewhere. Now, service-based, that's one thing I always recommend, that you focus on local SEO. Now, if you do something like marketing or website design or something like that, then you can target the United States, but I still recommend that you start off within your local area, build your clientele there, prove your results there before you start to expand, because it's a lot harder to rank on a national level versus on a local level. Let's talk a little bit about user experience. Now, user experience is pretty much you putting yourself in the mind or the shoes of your ideal customer. You want to think about, okay, what are they thinking? What are they looking for? Does my website help the flow? Does it make it easy for them to find what they're looking for? Those are the questions that you want to ask yourself, because the more you focus on user experience, the better experience it would be for your ideal customer, where they aren't coming off your website so quickly. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is testing. Now, a lot of times, someone will get a website built. They don't do any type of follow-up. They don't see what's working and what's not working. I always recommend that you have some sort of tracker. I like Google Analytics, because Google Analytics pretty much tell you what pages people are visiting, how long they're staying, what's the bounce rate like. You just want to make sure that you have something in place that you're able to track people who visit your website, because without the ability to track them, you pretty much have no idea what's working for you and what's not working. So after launch is important, but what's more important is what you do after your website is out there. As much as I wish that the clients will magically come, it unfortunately just doesn't work like that. And we have to put in the extra work. And then, after launch, you also want to see what are you doing for marketing. Now, if you don't have the capacity to post every day and to rely on social media, you have to think about your digital marketing. How much you want to pay for ads. I truly believe that $20 per week versus $0 per week is a good starting point for ads locally than nothing at all. Get yourself on video, talking about your services, talking about what you do. Run a local ad, do A/B testing to see what works and what doesn't work. And in another video, I'll tell you some things that I typically do on slower seasons when my website just isn't converting how I wish it would. It's gonna be uncomfortable, because sometimes you do have to get on the phone. But when you are really passionate about something and you know what you're offering, after about 10 to 20 calls, you become a lot more comfortable with getting on the phone and going after your ideal people. So I'll make sure that I create another video in the near future with some tactics that I use just to help when my digital marketing just isn't working in that specific season. And then last but not least, you want to make sure that you're getting feedback, whether that be from your current customers, whether it be from a customer that you probably lost, asking feedback of what could have been different, and just things that you might have been able to change where you could have got that business. I know it's uncomfortable getting feedback, because a lot of times we put so much energy and we put so much effort into something. You necessarily don't want someone to come in and tell you what's wrong, but sometimes that's needed, right? Get a website audit done. Go to a professional, see, hey, what's working for my website and what isn't working. Like I said, you can get this to download on my website. I wish I took the time to go over every single bullet point, but I realized that I was just skimming through and giving you guys an idea. I really recommend that you go through and you get this, because on this you have different bullet points where you're able to go through everything to just make sure that your website is in alignment, to make sure that you're getting that traffic and you're helping the traffic convert without you having to do too much. All right. Again, my name is Blake-Amaro. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.